So Francis, we're here in the heart of the Marais district to talk about Paris, one of the most important subjects for the house. Paris features in the name of the house. What was that important for you?
Oh yeah, it's very important because it goes back to my roots. My grandfather, who was an immigrant, had to leave his country and he decided to come to Paris. And Paris was very meaningful for him because it was a place of freedom. And I always grew up with that in mind. I always believed that a French luxury house had to have that Paris underneath. When I was a kid, I remember I used to see like a
limousine?
Like a limousine that they will deliver the goods, and it was Paris as a stamp. To me, Paris is like a stamp of savoir-faire. Paris is a stamp for craftsmanship. Paris is a stamp for know-how in luxury and more specifically in perfumes. So that was to me very important to have Paris as a stamp.
But where did you grow up? You didn't grow up?
I grew up a few miles away from Paris, on the suburb in Saint-Denis. It was a kind of little village of 3,000 people on the east side of Paris, which is a kind of a blue/white color village. So coming to Paris, at the time, there were no RER, which is a fast line train. So RER did not exist at the time. So we had to use a car, and coming to Paris was for me a journey and almost a little dream. Every time I knew that we were coming to Paris, all of a sudden there was something very magical because we had to dress up, because usually we used to go to the church, to the Armenian church. So that was on Sunday.
Okay.
So we had our Sunday outfits. I used to wear a suit and my blazer and my grey pants. My mother used to put a fur coat, and it was kind of very chic and elegant because where the Armenian church is right in the middle of the 8th district.
Ah, the Golden Triangle.
The Golden Triangle. And you have all these beautiful shops and couture houses. That was 40 years ago, 50 years ago. We were at the heart of French luxury.
And there you were gazing out of the window.
Yes, and it was quite a trip because coming from the east side of Paris, you follow the Seine that crosses Paris and divides Paris into parts. And I still remember by the window, I was staring at the quay, and the landscape was changing from the east side of Paris, which is very industrial, and little by little, I would see the upgrade. And just by closing my eyes, I can almost see all the monuments and the key places like Ile de la Cité, then the Conciergerie, of course Notre-Dame, and then we go by the Louvre. Amazing, because it's such a long museum, and then you end up going through the Place de la Concorde, and then from that specific place you see a little bit of Eiffel Tower, and then we go back to the quay and take the Champs-Élysées and turn left on the rond-point des Champs-Élysées and get to pass by all these beautiful shops and boutiques, make a left and stop the car before going to the Armenian church. And still now, to me, it was something magical. As a kid, for me, it was like a dream. I remember I was maybe 6, 7 years old, and I always promised myself that one day I will work in Paris. I will have my home in Paris. And something that was very, very deep in my mind. That was a goal for me.
What about your apartment? Because you don't live in central Paris, no?
Not anymore. Now I live on the northwest of Paris. On my left side, I see Montmartre. I have a rooftop terrace that obviously is Paris. So when I'm there at 11 o'clock on the left, I have Montparnasse. I see a lot of Eiffel Tower. I see a little bit of Arc de Triomphe. And on the right, which is a bit more modern, I have a new building designed by Renzo Piano.
How would you describe the atmosphere of Paris? For a lot of people who don't live here, they have this kind of cliched view of the city.
Depends on the day. Depends on the season. Paris is very seasonal. From end of November, mid-November, until February, March, it's cranky because it's gray, it's rainy, it's wet, it's foggy, it's like this, you know. Paris is very harsh because the weather, sometimes for 4 weeks in a row, you can have a gray sky and it can pour for like a week in a row, you know. It's not like being in the south when the sun lifts up your heart and you're happy because it's a beautiful day. We don't have that kind of a New York blue sky day, even though it's very cold. When you look up, the sky is beautiful pale blue. That's one reason I believe why Parisians are so moody. There was a campaign a few years ago. It's like, je suis parisien, j'aime rien. I am Parisian and I like nothing. That's very Parisian. And when spring comes up, when the day gets longer, you really feel spring in Paris. There is something, people smile. There is a hope for beautiful days.
Joie de vivre.
Joie de vivre, exactly. I like Paris because I travel away. I leave Paris quite often and I come back. I'm not sure that I'll be able to live in Paris non-stop. I love food shopping, so I also choose my place, my apartment, regarding what was around. And food shopping for me is very important. On weekends at 8 a.m., I'm with my trolley outside doing my food shopping. So it's a totally different way of living. I host my friend in Paris and they host me. In other cities, usually, you meet in restaurants or in bars. And I have always done that. When I started 30 years ago as a very young perfumer, I had a tiny studio. I always cooked. I always hosted people, even in a very tiny place. I think it's more about a state of mind that fits me very well because I live in a very Mediterranean way, like hosting people. It's very important. You can open the fridge. There is always something to cook for like 10 people, always.
Why is Paris an endless source of creativity for you?
Because there is so much to say about Paris, maybe. Because there is so much about the past, but also so much about today, because Paris is not a museum city. We have some modern theaters, we have some modern art and contemporary art, so it's not only about the past. You have that dialogue between the past and now, and I think this is a source of inspiration. And also because, to me, it's a human-sized city. I was in Shanghai and Beijing not so long ago. They are huge cities. I mean, and when I go to LA, everyone has a car in LA. You see, no one is walking in the street. I was considering London at some point, but there is no perfume creation in London. And I used to live in New York City. So, in my opinion, you have to be young to be in New York and to enjoy New York at large. All my friends that I've met 30 years ago and still live in the city, they all have a country house. They're all telling me that it's too noisy. They're all telling me that they're tired. Paris has that kind of human attitude still.
How did Paris play a part in your olfactive installations?
The very first one was in 2010. It was in Le Grand Palais. I had carte blanche and I was told, okay, this is for you for one night. What can you do? And Le Grand Palais looked to me and still looks as a greenhouse. Because we are like a 19th century greenhouse.
Yeah, it's like an orangery.
Huge orangery. And I said, okay, that's cool. So it's empty. What can I do in it? I decided to display 18 bubble machines throughout the nef. And each bubble machine was dedicated to a flower. So I created a scent for each bubble machine. And on top of it, because of the shape of the Grand Palais, I envision a kind of a French-style garden. Very well organized, very symmetrical, and we blew bubbles all night long with scents of mimosa, hyacinth, roses, lily of the valley. I even dedicated a wall for cut grass, because I thought it was kind of cool. So that was the very first installation. And the second one, I was invited to create an outdoor kind of installation. It was an exhibition about the favorite portraitist of Marie Antoinette. It's a she, Elisabeth Vigée-Lebrun. She painted many times Marie Antoinette, and Marie Antoinette had a very intimate relationship with her because Marie Antoinette thought that Vigée-Lebrun was able to paint her in a real way. We had that retrospective in Le Grand Palais, and I imagined the entrance of the Grand Palais being a kind of a portion of the wall of mirrors in Versailles. So it was a kind of play with reflections because I basically built up a gigantic mirror and we had the reflection of the Champs-Élysées within that gigantic mirror. Yeah, that was kind of spectacular because also you had the reflections of the clouds and the sun and the light and the sky. So far, this is one of my favorite ones.
How does Paris influence your creations?
What I love about Paris, it's its diversity and it's the walking distance between something very chic, elegant, elevated, high-end, such as the First District or even the 8th, which we call the Gold Triangle. and more popular districts. I love the way it moves. I love the diversity of the people that I see. I love the interaction with those people, because I always hated ghettos. I like multiple influences. That's very important to me. And Paris, to me, it's maybe less international than London or Shanghai right now, or New York or LA, but still we have that kind of a melting pot, which I really love. And Petit Matin and Grand Soir, first, are inspired from my favorite moments of the day, early morning and late night, because those moments are my moments. They are my private capsules, because after 8:30 or 9 a.m., I have meetings back to back. I have a very little lunch break. And at night or later in the day, if I go out for entertainment, for example, or if I go out to meet friends in a restaurant, I'm not alone. And then after 11 p.m., it's back to me. It's again my little capsule. I'm very lucky. I sleep very little hours. Very, very little. I slept between 5, 6 max hours a day. And then, because those are my moments, I love when the sun rises, because it's a new day, a new challenge, new encounters. And I love the specific light in the early morning. So Petit Matin is very important. The morning is very important to me. There is a famous song by Jacques Dutronc about Paris s'éveille, Paris is awakening. You have very little people. And it's not like in big cities where, let's say, New York is 24/7. You know, it's endless, all day long, 24/7. Paris, you see the wave of less people, less and less people, up to a moment where you can step out. And sometimes I'm an early bird, so I go to the office very early. Sometimes there is no one in the streets and almost no cars. And Grand Soir is less intimate. Grand Soir is more about, the night in Paris is outside to me. It's about ensemble. More people, definitely. More crowded, definitely. And I love the lights at night in Paris, because we have that kind of amber lights. The street lamps, they have that kind of a very specific ambery, soft, white color. It gives something very charming and romantic.
And Paris is known as the City of Light. Do you think that's a fitting name?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Paris is a city of light. Even during the day, when you have a gray sky and the color of the sky plays with the golden domes, there is a kind of resonance. And to me, the best view is when you are on one of the bridges and you look west. It's truly breathtaking.
And what about Amoris? Is that more about Parisian elegance?
Amoris was about effortless elegance in Paris. And I wanted a perfume that would fit with that idea of, if I have a collection of perfumes, if I don't know what to wear today, to be safe in a way, what should I wear? You know, sometimes you have your perfect outfit that you know no matter what happens throughout your day, you know that your outfit will be okay, good, from day to night. And I wanted to think about that in a fragrant way. What would that be if I translate that idea into a perfume? And this is how the story of Amoris came to me. The Amoris pour Femme is very bright. There is something chic because there is a backbone of wood that comes through the perfume, and yet it's very floral. There is something very elegant, I think. And Amoris pour Femme is the same. It's like kind of a bold, clean, warm fragrance for men. Something solid you can rely on.
Thinking of you as a little boy dreaming of Paris and moving to Paris, how does it feel today when you're walking around Paris and you smell your scents on people?
To be honest, when I smell something on people, it's very hard for me to connect because my mind is not there. My mind is, right now I'm working 2 years ahead. This phenomenon has increased since I have my Maison. Because my Maison, we always work on the next plan, so I'm always ahead of time. Now I have to think about the stories, I have to think about the name, I have to think ahead all the time. I'm working right now on Christmas in 2 years' time. So when I smell someone in the street, of course you feel happy, you feel full of joy in a way. And yet my mind is already in the next one, and to think about the next one, I have, in a way, to kill all the previous ones. When I am in the process of creating a new perfume, I need to disregard every single perfume I have made before.
Francis, tell us about the codes of the house inspired by Paris.
The very first codes we had are the grey and the gold. The gold is inspired by the golden domes of Paris, and the grey is inspired from the zinc. The zinc is one of the main materials that we use for the roofs of Paris. Then we have la pierre de Paris, so the Parisian stone, which is a very delicate beige, and it's very iconic because most of the monuments are built with this stone.
Which of your scents best captures the spirit of Paris?
You need all of them in Paris. When I walk through the Tuileries or through the Palais Royal, when it's the camellia season or when it's the magnolia season, it's beautiful. Or the lilac season is beautiful. Even autumn, when you have at the end of summer, when you have it's not the end of summer, when it's July, you have linden in Palais Royal. It's beautiful. And it's also the sound of the strings, the sound of the little birds, les moineaux, and then you have some children running around. It's physical, it's not just one sense.
Coming back to Paris, you know, when you've been away and you come back, what is so special about this place?
The food shops. Just from my avenue, when I see all these shops selling fruits and vegetables and wine and cheese and bread, yes, I am in Paris because this is very French.
Yeah, you mentioned the bakeries. Do you have any little rituals that are very Parisian, like going to get your baguette? Or...
Do I have rituals on weekends? I believe I am one of the very first one at the bakery at 7:30. They open at 7, but at 7:30 on weekends I'm there. So I have the choice of all the breads. I can choose all the pastries I want. And the Paris-Brest is so good. And the croissant is so good and the pain au chocolat. It's a dream.